to Unions in the UK, a podcast about unions in the UK. My name is Henry, pronouns they, them, and I'm here with Corey.
Hi, I'm Corey, my pronouns are she, her, and we're back, baby!
Oh, silly. So silly. We haven't been anywhere, what do you mean?
Yeah, it's been 2 weeks since our last podcast.
Yeah, the usual time period. God's sake. Fucking Bengals and Bongo back, eh?
Yeah.
Back to, and I'm gonna say it. Back to review Hogwarts Legacy. I hope that's okay. Sorry.
Fuck off!
I said to Corey before this that I'd make that joke, and I had to make that joke. It's really important for me just to get it out. Otherwise, I'll feel sick inside. Corey, what are we talking about today?
So, because I've been ridiculously busy and haven't had chance to nerd out over various things as much as normal, Henry suggested very kindly that they'd talk us through direct action and what's available in the UK.
Do you know what I just realised?
Go on.
I just missed the point of what we've been up to.
Yeah,
I just ignored it.
That's later. That's not what we're talking about today. That's what people have to endure before we get to that, so that's fine.
Okay. Wait, which bit first? I don't fucking know.
Well, people will have to know what they're here to listen to, which is about direct action in the UK.
Got it, yeah.
Then we get to go and do what
we get to do the fun stuff for us.
Yeah. People have to
And
listen
only
to us
us.
first.
Yeah.
So they can't tune out at the end if we were to do this afterwards, you know?
Yeah. Can you tell we're out of practice? So what have you been up to, Corey?
God, so much. So this the last time we recorded, we were just ramping up in my union branch for a ballot on strike action.
Whoa.
The ballot passed, and we've since been on strike. And I've been doing a lot of organising of that. As well as that, I've run 2 Kickstarters for my silly little side games business. If this is edited and comes out in like the next 2 days, one of them will still be live, and all one of you can go and back my project. But
Oh, hell yeah.
but I don't think it will be, so that's fine. So
She's a busy lady.
yeah, I've been up to a lot of stuff, both politically and personally. Henry, what have you been doing? It's been so long since I've seen you.
It has, and I can't actually remember where we're at in our in my So in the UCU, the University and College Union, I think we were just finishing balloting, and I just announced that we successfully balloted for strike action, which is really cool. And then we had a couple of days of strike in December, and then we've had 5 days so far of strike in the new year.
And you're still on striking, is that right? Am I correct?
And I was about to say we would have two more weeks, but we don't. We're not. We shouldn't talk about it. Everyone's you might have seen on Twitter, people are being understandably upset, but also incredibly normal about it.
Yeah, I do want to actually.
Yeah, let's go.
Actually, I just want to say, anyone who is listening to this, if you see someone being misogynistic to the General Secretary of UCU over the decision to suspend strike action, you're a piece of shit. Cut it the fuck out. Mm-hmm. I don't agree with their decision. I mean, it's not even my union, so I don't really have a say. But me, the protagonist... I don't agree with it, and even I think that you're being fucking gross.
And then it's like going a bit silly. I mean, like, fucking misogyny straight away is already too far, but then there's like nerds going onto her Wikipedia page and changing it from like the general secretary of the UCU to like traitor and Judas, and it's just so like,
Oh, it's such
I don't
baby
know.
shit. It's just baby
It
shit.
is baby. It is baby shit. It's fully baby shit. But yeah, don't do that. Please don't do that.
Like she's not like fully betraying the cause of the union here. She's not like fully like refusing to hear out the workers' concerns and represent them. She's engaged in a bargaining tactic that I think is stupid, but I believe, is doing in good faith.
Yes, yeah.
Like,
It's a tactical difference.
Yeah. She's not suddenly a right-wing infiltrator. She's not suddenly trying to cause the downfall of the working class. Fucking knock it off. Like, this is the problem with union bureaucracy as it stands.
Yeah, for real.
Like, this is a problem.
Which we've discussed before in an earlier episode.
Yeah, and also why you need to know about amazing things like direct action and what's available in the UK. Segue, Henry,
Whoa!
go!
Holy shit. Well, first of all, before I even get there... Sorry, just another bit of bait to dangle in front of the patient listeners. How is the UK doing at the moment? And this was something... So I decided to add this in just because... it's useful to keep informed on this sort of thing. It directly affects what we're going to be talking about in this episode. And also, it's just like... so, in the IDWW, we agreed that we're going to be educating as many people as possible about this sort of stuff, because it's kind of important. So, senior Tories have made some funny proposals. And, of course... Like, they're only proposals so far, but so far, literally everything that's been proposed seems to have gone to a bill of some kind. So it's good to keep an eye on and resist if needed. So senior Tories have suggested that we extend minimum service requirements to other sectors rather than just emergency services, which they're already pushing really hard on. They've said... any sectors that are necessary for the effective functioning of the economy without disruption. Now, to me, that would sound like just about everything, really. So, interesting one, that. They're going to be trying to double the minimum notice period for strikes from 2 to 4 weeks. Again, that sucks. Already sucks 2 weeks. 4 weeks is just going to suck harder. They're going to raise the threshold of strikes in certain essential sectors from the 40% of whole eligible membership voting at least to 50%. Again, already stupid, but they're extending that to the whole economy, which is, again, garbage. Some sort of cooling off period, meaning unions can't strike at will after a ballot mandate. Garbage. And outlawing or restricting strike pay. Which is an interesting one, because I didn't know there was some places that did strike pay, but apparently they do. We don't get strike pay.
There are loads of places, like PCS is doing it, the Royal College of Nursing's doing it.
As in, like, paying members with strike money is that one?
So that's paying members to be on strike.
Yeah. That's even more garbage. Yeah, UCU does that. I thought that was meant businesses paying people who are on strike, which is... Again, why would they do that? They don't need to. But yeah, I was a bit confused about that one, but that makes a lot more sense. Garbage. All garbage suggestions from senior Tories.
I do want to sort of pick up on one of those in particular, like, because that notice period going up to 4 weeks. So we found out during the course of our ballot... at PCS, we found out that Northern Ireland, their mandate for striking, so you know how if you pass a strike ballot, you would have 6 months to call strikes before you'd have to do another ballot, right? Yeah, theirs lasts a month.
I can see there's a problem there.
Yeah, so if
I can see a problem arising there.
Yeah, so this potentially makes it impossible for anyone in Northern Ireland to strike for more than a single day at all. Like, and even then, this might just straight up outlaw striking in Northern Ireland. I'd need to have another look into that to figure out what the fuck is going on, or whether the new proposals would affect Northern Ireland. But yeah, I mean, I understand that the Westminster government broadly and the Tories specifically do not give a fuck about the Irish, even a little. But come on, man.
Except when it comes to like independence calls, in which case it's the most important thing that you could have ever imagined. But yeah, it's absolutely fucking garbage. Complete garbage. So that's really cool. We're on a cool island.
Yeah, everything's going great.
A cool archipelago filled with demons.
Yeah, you've put in the notes here. I can see you want to point out 3R unions.
Oh yes, sorry.
So
there's
fuck is that?
Basically 3R unions is a campaign group that was initiated by the Clarion magazine and Lambeth Unison branch, and has slowly been backed by dozens of unions and committees and local labour parties, etc., etc. So 4 national trade unions, IWGB, FBU, RMT and PCS, have supported the campaign via the AGMs. And yeah, it's a call for the abolition of all anti-union laws, not only the most recent ones, but all, and to demand Labour fight for this policy in opposition. But Labour, both capital and lowercase l. It's an interesting campaign group, but they were the ones who are like being like, make sure you're educating your members. Please make sure you're educating your members, because apparently a lot of people just don't know this shit, and don't know of the vampires that live in big castles down south and up north, really. So yeah. Fair. That's UK's going really well. I put in the notes here according to your centrist dads.
Yeah, that's great. And as things get steadily worse, you're going to need to know how to do more and more things that aren't necessarily sanctioned, such as direct action that is available in the UK, which is today's topic. Segue, Henry, go. I've done 2 segues to that one now. Nice. We're doing it.
Direct action. What is it? Why do we like it? What's it all about? So direct action, as opposed to indirect action, is action that you can do directly. I know that's the silliest description of it, but as opposed to actions that aren't delegated to other people to then discuss and then and so on. Actions like strikes, wherein people literally do the thing, they withdraw their labour, and that's fantastic. Other actions include, specific to my union, we've had marking boycotts in the universities. Doesn't affect me, but it's one of the most effective tactics of lecturers, where they just stop doing any out-of-hours work, which includes marking. And that pretty much... that grinds everything to a halt, apparently, for lecturers, which is great. Do more of that, please. I also heard tell of marking every student as present, as in registers, as a protest action. What's that? It's like a good work strike sort of thing, where they do their job but make it very easy for people who are affected by their job, who are... What's the word? I'm going to say this and it sounds bad. Who are serviced by their job, sort of thing, and make it very nice for them, whilst also kind of skirting things a little bit. Another good example of this is in bus drivers in Japan. When they're on strike, they quite often just still drive the buses around, but they just let everyone on for free.
Yeah, they've. That's one of those. We've talked about that before, haven't we? Where it's one of those things where doing that in the UK isn't technically illegal, but the area that it occupies in, like, the legislation sort of means that it's effectively illegal, because it's neither action short of a strike nor a strike. It's just fucking weird. Like, the RMT considered doing it at one point, apparently, and their lawyers like looked into it and were just like, yeah, there's no way that we can do this in a way that we think will be in line with the legislation, so it'll get the whole strike fucked off, get everyone sacked, and get us fined a bunch of money.
Good heavens.
So, you know, that's what they were doing. And also, like, I think with stuff like that, there's especially fears that people would be prosecuted for stealing trains.
Yes, yeah. That is very unbelievably British. That is like... Oh, I love that.
So I think that's the case.
They're stealing my train from me.
Yeah, by refusing to take any money for it. But, yeah, I think that's how it would work in the UK, where that kind of sort of working, I suppose, is not really feasible for a lot of occupations.
I know it's quite tricky. A lot of the law in the UK is deliberately fairly vague, open to interpretation, and then often that weirdness is useful for people who are prosecuting.
Well, I mean, it was sort of a bit of a ethos of the new Labour government, especially, where they would write huge sweeping changes to legislation, basically under the assumption that it'd go to court and sort itself out. And, you know, the judges would be able to clarify.
Yeah, they'd read it and go, this makes sense, yeah, sorted.
Which, you know, has happened in quite a few places, but does mean a bunch of stuff just isn't accessible to most people, because, like, without being able to take a case to the courts to sort of interpret this legislation, if you don't have the money to do that, you don't get to see if your interpretation's right.
Yeah.
It's just shit.
Wacky country.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one handy things with interpreting laws and stuff like that is a lot of unions will have lawyers attached to them, or handy lawyer contacts to them at the very least. So at the very least, being part of a union does have moderate protection about that. I know we said in a previous episode, they're not just big lawyers. They're not, but they have lawyers attached to them.
They have legal departments. Like, bigger unions have legal departments, and smaller unions usually have a lawyer that they can...
have an incredibly sweaty and overworked lawyer.
Yeah.
With that being said, I thought I'd go through a few examples that were outlined in the How to Fire Your Boss, an article by IWW Ireland. The way they describe each of these actions are specific to Republic of Ireland law, which is a little bit different. In some cases worse, in some cases better than the UK. But it's ultimately garbage. But yeah, so... Well, first of all, before I do that, Corey, have you ever experienced any direct actions in PCS?
You know, a lot of, like, the militancy of PCS, because it is one of the more militant unions, which is weird. A lot of that is, like, bound up in the people who get, like, elected to the top positions. Like, it's the union of the public and civil servants in the UK. By its very nature, a lot of the people in there are very, like, if not, like, small c conservative, they're not exactly radicals for the most part. Which makes it incredibly strange that we consist, like, for like 20 years or something fucking ridiculous, we've elected Mark, I am literally a communist, Sawatka, to be General Secretary. And like, quite a lot of the actions, like, taken, and a lot of the rhetoric is quite radical, which is, it's very weird. It's very like centralized radicalism in PCS. At some point, we need to do an episode on PCS, which is basically just going to be like an hour-long sigh from me. It's just me going, oh, for God's sake. You make it
good.
so hard to be part of you sometimes, you fucking idiots.
Good. Delicious.
But like, yeah, I think like in terms of like encouraging actual direct action, because they're both one of the bigger unions and they're part of like the public sector and civil service, that makes them quite inclined to do things to the letter of the law and the regulations and stuff, which means that I think actually that feeds into wanting to be doing strike action as often as possible, because they see that almost as the only outlet for frustrations, because being civil servants and public sector workers, it inclines people towards following rules and regulations.
I see.
It would be like one guess, like people are very bound up in red tape mentally, I think, in PCS. And like, that's not the worst thing in the world. It does mean that, as I say, people are quite inclined to go on strike and quite inclined to take these matters into their own hands. But my experience of my branch has been at times a bit frustrating, of trying to get through to people that you don't have to do things in this official channeled way. You if you have a problem, you can just address it, sort of thing.
Yeah, sure.
It's like most problems are resolved informally, so you can do that.
Sorry, this was a complete tangent. Yeah. So it's like that whole doing things the right way and then doing things the way by the rules is a very interesting one that people are often put up against. One direct action a lot of people can do is just doing things the right way rather than doing things as the rules dictate. There was an example in, I think it was San Francisco, where basically the manager had the manager of this printing firm had this whole new process of doing things, and everyone working there found it was just like absolutely incomprehensible. It would cause like constant like delays and stuff, and then like if there was ever like a fault anywhere, people would be like flapping to try and deal with that, but also like sticking to the rules. You weren't allowed to do certain things, so it all got a bit silly. And one thing that these lot did was they just started working as if it was their office and just like completely bypassed the manager. And what do you know, efficiency went fucking up. Everyone was happier. Like fucking, like all these improvements just by just working how they expect to work rather than how they are told to work, sort of thing. So yeah, it's the opposite of work to rule, isn't it? It's work to I guess to own, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Work to rule is this idea where if you want to show your distaste at the way management is doing things, do things exactly to the letter that management say. If they don't mention something to do in edge cases, don't do it. They didn't tell you to do it. Just do what it says by the book, and watch everything fall to pieces and watch the managers flap as they try to fix it.
Yeah, I mean, the point of work to rule especially is stuff like demonstrating exactly how far above and beyond you as a worker go consistently to make things function.
Exactly, yeah.
Because like
all that extra stuff that you do is suddenly gone out the window, and then the workplace falls apart without it.
Yeah, because like really think about it. Like really think about all the extra stuff that you do to make work go better, because it makes, your personal numbers look better, whatever those may be. Like, imagine how much worse it would be if you stopped doing that, and how much worse it would make the manager look if all of a sudden you were still doing everything you were told to do, but all of their numbers that they have to keep up they all go out the window.
It's good. It's good. It's very good. It's I always love it, and it was one that me and my friend accidentally did while working for a I'll just say beer distribution company. So what we were this I did this as a part-time job whilst I was still in sixth form, and I guess this was more a slowdown than anything. But we did do some work to rule stuff. But again, by accident, just because we were lazy, like teenagers, basically. But with the slowdown, we had to so our jobs was an everything job. Like if you we were an office assistant, which means you do everything. So one thing that we had to do was sign a load of these letters. Seal these envelopes. Thankfully, we had glue for it rather than licking them all, because I'd have gone insane. And all this type of stuff. So we were signing these, but one thing my friend noted out is like, oh, we're getting paid by the hour, not by how many letters we seal. So like, take your time. This was my first day there, and he was like, yeah, and I just happened to know this guy who was like one of my besties. He was like, yeah, just you don't go crazy, but then of course when it came to work to rule, we were given a list of instructions to carry out. They obviously missed out like a lot of key details, and so when it came to the issues, we're like, I don't know what to do. I guess I'll just send an email to the boss and wait. And we did that, and the boss got so wound up because they were like, oh, why aren't you doing all this extra stuff? And we're like, well, you didn't tell us to, and you told us off last time we did stuff you told us not to do. It's very good. But also, yeah, lazy teenagers, hell yeah. Listen to teenagers. They know what's up.
Yeah. Historically, you can never go wrong listening to the opinions of a teen. Smart thinkers, they're sharp cookies, them teens.
That's why I go on twitter.com.
Yeah, that famously teen-oriented website, twitter.com. It's not full of cool 40-year-old depressed leftists.
No, it's cool teens
it's
wearing
where the
sunglasses.
Cool teens hang out and skateboard.
So yeah, another form of direct action, which is... So the direct actions we've mentioned are mostly allowed in the UK. I say mostly because there's always some like wiggle room for the government to be a pain in the ass, or your boss to be a pain in the ass. Selective strikes are something that UCU is employed. Of course, it's a little bit difficult in the UK to do unpredictable strikes because you have to telegraph them 2 weeks in advance. But selective strikes, the idea is that you go to work on Monday, you strike Tuesday, Wednesday, go to work on Thursday, and then the next week do it differently. You strike on Monday and Tuesday, and then go to work Wednesday, Thursday, strike on Friday, example. So it keeps everyone on their feet. If there are jobs that are done on specific days, it makes sure that it's very difficult to organize around that, for the boss to organize around that. And it's generally a very good to keep your boss on your toes with the strike. The UCU has done this, I suspect, mostly because were they all on the same day, some teachers would never be on strike, basically. So it's I believe it was to make sure that everyone had at least a day to be off on strike to show their worth, and so they could withdraw their labour. Although it has had the opposite effect for some people, where some people are just in work the whole time because they've been unlucky enough to have the days that it lands on just not for days that they weren't in anyway. So yeah, it can be a pain, but it's quite useful. Here's one that I wasn't sure on, and I don't see if you've ever seen it employed, Corey. Sicken.
Sorry, you explain what it is first.
I was just going to say, yeah, a sicken is where everyone just calls in sick on the same day.
Yeah, I've never seen this this employed, but like, I don't know. I think it'd be good.
I imagine there's some sketchy ground underneath it, but I put in the show notes it's not show notes in the notes for the episode, sketchy ground in parentheses.
So I think that the sketchiest part about it is the fact that you'd have to organise it.
You would, yeah.
And like the problem with that is that the minute two people know a thing, it's no longer a secret.
Yes, yeah.
The minute three people know a thing, it's news.
Yes, yeah.
And like that's where it's going to be a problem, because like if you do have to organize it, everyone has to be super cool with not saying shit. There is no organization that has or will ever exist in this sort of context that would be able to pull that off.
Yeah.
Like, I don't believe that that's the case. Like, you sort of hear stories from like the history of the labour movement where it's like, the bosses were taken surprise by the strikes or whatever. But I bet you, like, dollars to donuts, they knew 100% in advance that those strikes were going to happen. They just wrote it off. They thought, no one will actually go through with it.
Yeah, sure.
And the problem with doing a sit-in like that, as opposed to like, your late 1800s strike action, where the strike action was, we're going to burn down your fucking building, mate. Like, the difference with that and a sit-in is, if everyone calls in sick, they still go in the next day, or whenever the sit-in ends.
Yeah.
And like, the fear of God hasn't been put into the boss.
Yeah, sure.
So
yeah, definitely.
Like, I think that's the problem, is that it's a really cool idea and concept. It's really neat. I think if you, and like, sort of similar to like a selective strike, if you and a few mates who are really essential to the business, and you're all fucked off about something, and you've all been treated badly, which naturally you will have been. That's the world in which we currently live. Like, if you have that handful of mates that are essential and you just all call in sick, that's a bit of a shock to the system of management, like, in a similar way to the work to rule thing. But I don't think it's got, like, personally, my gut instinct is that it doesn't have much application beyond, there are a couple of us and we're really important to keep things running day to day.
Sure.
All the accounting department goes off on the day payroll needs to be, all the invoices need to be paid.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like something like that. All the IT people go off the day that there's supposed to be a big overhaul to the systems, something like that. So there was a strike on a day where that was happening in the IT department in our university, which was very funny. I don't know why the IT department had planned something on that day, but yeah, they obviously didn't think that many people were going out on strike, and enough were that it was a pain in the ass. Very funny. Yeah.
I guess that's one that's a very selectively applied sort of thing. Then there's a few more examples. I do want to get onto the ones, some of the more cooler, shall we say, actions. So there's the example of dual power, which I kind of mentioned before.
Well, it's the idea that you build, it's a state within a state. Like,
yeah.
You have the power. You're building the power to basically end the system within it.
Yes,
kind of thing. Yeah.
So in this sense, you'd be building the alternate workplace within the main workplace. And then there's solidarity, as in supporting strikers, not as in wildcats or flying pickets. We'll get into those in a second.
So with solidarity, sorry, I just wanted to jump in that. So I said earlier that I hadn't had time to be as much of a nerd about this episode. I have still read a book about
Nice.
stuff. So I read Class Power on 0 Hours by the Angry Workers Collective.
Yeah.
I don't agree with a lot of their stuff. They're a different strain of leftist to myself.
Sure.
Which I think colours a lot of their opinions of things in a potentially in a way that I find unhelpful personally.
Okay.
But one thing that I thought was really cool, was a really good idea, was effectively building a solidarity network within your workplace. So building an organisation, or not an organisation exactly, but building a place or sort of group where people can come to with any problems that they have, workplace related or not. In effect, sort of like if Acorn were in your workplace kind of thing.
Sure, yeah.
Where the idea is that it is a political action for members of the working class to come together and solve their own problems, rather than outsourcing it to experts and waiting on things like that. Like just genuinely like solving stuff directly themselves. So building a solidarity network where you'd be able to give people advice and help and make sure that they were okay in and of themselves as well as at work, I think is a really cool thing, because what that does is that feeds into the trust that you have with your colleagues for other stuff to get raised. So, you know, if you've got a working relationship with someone through a solidarity network, like they know you from that, or, you know, they know someone from that then comes to you with a work-related issue that the union can move on. They come with some intel about what management are planning that can allow the union to act in a way that keeps management on the back foot. Things like that are really cool, as well as that thing that I mentioned earlier in that bit about PCS that might get cut, but we're definitely leaving this bit in just to confuse you.
Yeah.
This sort of gets people in the mindset of solving their own problems, and it is something that's really difficult to get people to do, because they're not used to it in certain contexts. Like, everyone will be able to sort themselves out and look after themselves for the most part. You know, everyone's a grown-ass adult. But a lot of people will look at a problem with a landlord, will look at a problem with a workplace, will look at a problem with, you know, something along those lines, like, you know, a problem in their day-to-day life where they might go, oh, actually, no, we need an expert to solve this. There's someone knows the law better than I do. Someone surely is more equipped to handle this than I am. And it's a really difficult mindset to get out of, and stuff like this, I think, is the way forwards, where you just have somewhere where you come together and you just solve little problems for each other. It can be as simple as, you know, not to say, oh, you know, you should focus on your work and improving your ability as an employee, but it can be simple little stuff like, I showed someone how to save a file as a PDF without going through print preview once, and it just blew their mind. Like, just the idea that you could save a few minutes a day, just saving things in a slightly quicker way, and it just helped them, and they, you know that they can come to me for help on little stupid things like that, and also they can share that advice with other people, and you can build things like that from these tiny little silly problems to actually solving bigger problems, because you get people into that mindset. And that idea of the solidarity network is something that I'm planning on taking forward in my workplace, sort of almost separate to the union, I think.
Yeah, no, like that sounds incredibly useful.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the other stuff that they had was, you know, about getting, like, in the book, was about getting to know people in your workplace, you know, the usual sort of thing. and then doing a newsletter and a magazine because fucking of course it was. We just cannot help ourselves. We crave publishing.
Must
And
write.
as leftists, we just fucking have to do it for some...
That's why lefties love Twitter.
Oh, yeah, no, legitimately, I think it is. But, yeah, that bit really stood out to me, that idea of the Solidarity Network and what was done with it.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
really cool. And is a form of direct action, solving your own problems.
Dope as fuck. Hell yeah. I think we should get moving on to what isn't allowed in the UK. Some of the more definitely not allowed, but...
Yeah, we have been going nearly an hour.
So, what isn't allowed in the UK? Some of the more cooler actions. I did put a disclaimer here. I'm not going to read out all of it because Corey doesn't like the funny joke that I made.
No, read it. Go on.
Okay. Can I just explain this one? I think there is a bit of a xenophobia issue. I think.
Jesus Christ! I just remembered what fucking disclaimer this is.
Yeah.
Oh
think the
God.
UK has a bit of a xenophobia issue, and this extends to folks in unions as well. We were on strike, big strike day. What was it? 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was the 1st of February.
1st of February.
It was the big
strike
one
day.
where like hundreds of thousands of people were on strike.
Yeah. It was pretty cool to see so many unions. I could see very clearly because I was looking for Corey in the crowd, and I saw the PCS block from all their flags. So I was like, I'm going that way. I'll go that way and hunt her out. But yes, someone got up on stage and they were doing some speeches and stuff, and someone was explaining how strict union laws were in the UK, and they came out with this banger. And it was second worst in Europe, next to Lithuania of all places. And I cringed inside. I doubled over, and immediately messaged Corey with a message as if, "Did you hear that?" And it's frustrating because that sucks. That really sucks. That the UK has an idea of anything fucking east of Poland and some places of Poland, I imagine, are just like barren wastelands of like barbarism and God knows what and stuff. When that's just like not great, right? That's not a great attitude.
Yeah.
And I know what the dude was trying to say. What he was trying to say is the UK has the second strictest laws in Europe for trade unions. But what he came out with was if to say that Lithuania was just this hell zone.
It's the same thing as like you see a lot of stuff about like, especially around COVID. I think we saw a lot of it. A lot of like, oh, you wouldn't expect to see this in here in the West. You'd expect to see that in China. What are we? A bunch of Asians or something?
Exactly.
And it's just racist as shit. It's just such a weird defense mechanism of like this sort of nationalist appeal to where we are as the platonic ideal of civilization. And
the glorious shining West.
Yeah, and like, because you get it in America, you get it in like France and Germany as well. Like,
yeah.
I imagine you get it at least a little bit everywhere where there are nationalists to be speaking about.
Yeah.
This
And their idea is the more east you go, the worse it is.
But yeah, like it's this weird little nationalistic thing where it's like, we're supposed to be the good people. Look at them over there. How are we even comparable to them on this? And it sucks. It sucks, and I wish that people would stop it.
Anyway, the funny joke that I put in. Disclaimer: the UK law is incredibly weighted against union activity, and then I put the funny bit. Second worst in Europe, next to Lithuania of all places. Now that makes sense, and I don't just sound xenophobic because I was quoting that dickhead on stage.
See, it's okay when I do it because I did it as a joke.
No, you see, it's okay when I explain it in context of this other dude being a piece of shit. I'm not a piece of... Fuck, Jesus Christ.
I used to be a piece of shit.
I used to be a piece of shit. Any action can potentially get you in trouble with the law. On an unrelated note, I think, me personally, I think the actions listed that we're about to go through are very cool, but they are very illegal. And I was going to say something else there, but it probably puts us on dangerous ground.
Yeah.
So yes.
I mean, I'll say that everything we're about to discuss has precedent in the history of the labour movement and has often worked, which is why it's illegal.
That's a good way of putting it. And I've got to be really careful what I say. So we'll start with some of the...
You're editing this. You can cut anything out.
I do, yeah, fuck it. That's getting cut. Anyway. Monkey wrenching. Silly name. What's that about?
I don't know, Henry. Maybe you could talk us through it.
Yeah, I can talk about this and I'll just tiptoe around it very carefully.
Yeah.
Monkey wrenching is the idea that you deliberately sabotage the equipment in your workplace as to slow down work or to make things a pain in the ass for your manager. The term comes from when people working on big machines used to shove a wrench in there and whistle about on their day. I can see an image of Felix the cat with a little wrench shoving it inside a big machine and then doing the Mickey Mouse like rubber band whistle as they walk away. That's monkey wrenching. Again, illegal. In I think every country. I say it's not allowed in the UK. I don't think it's legal anywhere. If there is a country that it's legal in, high five. Very cool. Only good country. I don't suppose you have any examples of this happening in the UK.
Not off the top of my head, no. I could have looked this up, but
I can imagine some scenarios. For example, this is not me endorsing said scenarios, but I can imagine them. So one example could be, let's say you're an office worker, and everything's on your laptop and stuff. Oh, whoops! A rat chewed through my cables at the back. Oh dear, they look like scissor marks, but they're not. Or if you, or I mean that goes for just about everything electronical. Like you're a chef. Oh no, a rat's chewed through the wires at the back of this hob. I can't cook anything.
Yeah, I mean, like you work in construction, and like, oh no, the concrete we've mixed, the proportions are off, or something's wrong and it's not setting right.
Someone's put a rat in there. I don't know why I've got rats on the brain.
Don't put rats in concrete. Do not commit animal abuse.
No, I'm not saying do this. I didn't say anything about doing this.
I'm coming out very strongly against putting rats in concrete. I'm pro-rat.
Someone's put a can of Monster in this cement mixer. That's no good. Things to that effect. Monkey wrenching. Silly name. Really cool. Very illegal. I put solidarity here again because there are certain you can't do a solidarity strike. As in, like, you can't do a strike at the same time someone's doing a strike because you're like, I support them, let's do a strike. Sort of thing.
Yeah, so like this I think came into force because what you'd have is like a factory go on strike, and then you'd have a factory that was like delivering stuff to them. They'd go on strike in solidarity because the management still wanted them to deliver the stuff, and the people in the solidarity striking factory didn't want to cross the picket line and would go on strike over, no, you can't make us cross the picket line. And
yeah.
I think there was a lot of it around the miners' strike as well, because I think solidarity striking and flying pickets, which we're going to talk about next. I think both of those, that's when that got made illegal, although I could be wrong. I know flying pickets definitely were around then, because Miners' Strike was famous for it. But fun fact, in France, this is still legal, which is how you get people shutting off the power to Amazon factories, Amazon warehouses rather, because they are taking action in solidarity with the striking workforce in an Amazon warehouse.
It's I look at and I get it's just because the laws there allow it, but I look over at France and I'm just like, oh man. that's
must
some,
be fucking nice.
That's some tasty union solidarity there, baby.
Yeah, France is by all accounts horrifically racist, terrifyingly repressive, horribly up itself in a weird nationalistic way, in a lot of similar ways to the UK.
I was going to say it's UK's twin.
I mean, there's a reason we historically have hated each other, I think. But the stuff from there that come out around labor rights stuff, fucking sick. You've seen the firefighters lighting themselves on fire and charging lines of police.
It's very cool.
That's sick. That's something out of a film. Come on, that's fucking sick.
This is sure. I say that it's only because the laws are different over there, but I don't know. I cannot imagine, a lot of British people to light themselves on fucking fire and charge at a line of policemen.
Not on purpose, unless it were about a football game.
Yeah, unless it's football. Yeah.
I can believe some horrible shit would occur where they'd light a guy called Gregsy on fire after a Millwall game and have him charge some police who weren't even looking or some
Get
shit.
stuck in there, Gregsy.
Wild. Not all football fans are bad. Blah blah blah.
No,
blah,
Gregsy's
blah.
a saint.
Great working class institution historically. Lots of good grassroots stuff around football. Big fan of all of that conceptually. I don't personally care for the game. Cancel me if you want, football fans who will listen to this. I know that's our primary audience.
Yeah.
He's Gregsy.
Football fans. He's Gregsy, yeah. Shout out to Gregsy.
But there are some absolutely wild football fans.
Yeah. Speaking of wild, but segue. Wildcat strikes. A wildcat strike is a strike undertaken by members of a union without warning, without much authorization. They just go off and strike it. Which is illegal. But
yeah, this is it's a wildcat strike if it's not done with if it's not called for by the central union.
Yeah.
You saw a lot of them in the US in the last few years. Teachers, I think, in Chicago. Was it Chicago where they did a bunch of wildcat strikes?
I can imagine.
I know teachers in Chicago did something recently. I'm not sure if they were the ones who were doing the wildcat strikes or whether it was a different group. But yeah, you see quite a lot of it, especially where union bureaucracy is getting in the way.
But yeah, wildcat strikes, again, very cool, very illegal. One thing that's been in the public consciousness a lot recently is blockades. And that's because they've been used as an action of protest groups, especially those who are campaigning for either environmental reasons or energy reasons, where they'll just like either block a main road, block a building. That's illegal in the UK, I'm pretty sure, blocking a building. I think blocking a road's illegal, but you can get around it because there's laws around protest action, which allows it. But yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, when you're on strike, you have to make sure people can get into and out of the building.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I do sort of partly get this one, because like this one, at the very least, you can sort of pay lip service to if there's an emergency, if there's this, that, or the other. Like, it's still bullshit. It's still a bullshit excuse to lessen the impact that industrial action has. But at least this one you can sort of look at and go, yeah, I guess, fine, fuck it.
It would be more forgivable though. I mean, like if we had a functioning emergency service in the UK.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Anything that would go wrong inevitably will be put down to striking workers, but you know, not really their fault when everything else is collapsing.
Yeah.
After 40, 50 years of
liberalism,
strategic withering,
plundering. They're doing the withering of the state. They're doing it.
Yeah,
I can't believe they're doing it.
They're doing communism. We gotta stop them by electing socialists. I say socialist because all the communists that want power terrify me, and anarchists don't want to get involved in that shit. So by process of elimination, we gotta give it to the socialists.
So yeah, but blockades are interesting ones. Again, like I think it's very disingenuous for people to argue that, you know, emergency services issue in the UK, especially at the moment, considering that they've been plundered at an increasing rate every single year. So that's blockades. Illegal, if illegal if part of strike action. Debatable around protest action, but yes. And then finally I put this one on because it's funny. Road sign improvement. That's taking a road sign, just messing it up a little bit. Putting a big willy on there, changing the way arrows go. This one has been employed in America. I did have an example, but I've lost it.
Just edit yourself in talking about it in a very calm and level way. No one will be able to tell.
This is editing booth Henry here. It's gone. Can't find it. It's long lost. Just imagine I give a really cool example.
Wow, Henry, that's such an interesting anecdote about roadside improvement from the USA, which you just read out there and had to hand.
Very useful stuff. Or to distract deliveries to the place of your work, so that nothing gets delivered on time, no one can do anything. Very cool. Very illegal! So yeah, unless you, Corey, have got any other examples?
No, not of the things that we've spoken about as being not allowed in the UK. I wouldn't know anything about what is illegal.
Yeah, no, I don't
all
either.
All of my knowledge is inside of the law. I don't. As soon as something's illegal, I stop knowing about it.
I went on Wikipedia, and the evil Wikipedia ghouls told me about this. I'm going to read out the disclaimer again without the Lithuania bit. UK law is incredibly weighted against union activity. Any action could potentially get you in trouble with the law. just putting that there. Right. I think that's everything. Did have a final note to talk about. What day is it today? It was like about a week. It is a Monday, unfortunately. About a week ago, the Brianna Jai vigils across the country. I thought it would be good to put just a little link to the GoFundMe in here. So the GoFundMe is there if you can donate at all. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We have been Unions in the UK, a podcast about unions in the UK. We have socials, I think, I'm told.
Oh shit,
this
I
feels
really
weird.
need to log back into the Twitter.
This feels weird to do. We have socials. We have our email that you can contact us on for whatever you want. I haven't checked that in a while, so I might as well do that. It'll probably just be Transistor saying that your free trial period has ended. Give us money, but that's fine. That's fine. I'll figure that one out. Also, we have a Twitter and we have a YouTube channel. If you search for us on YouTube, or if you look at the links in the description of this video, I'll also include the links to Free Our Unions, How to Fire Your Boss by RWW Ireland, the GoFundMe for Brianna Jai, and the Building Power in 0 Hours by Angry Workers. The music that you heard at the start and end of this episode was a remix of a remix of Solidarity Forever by Intellectual Darkwave. You can find them on Instagram or Bandcamp. Any parting words to the wonderful crowds tonight?
No, I got nothing. Like, cheers for listening.
The end.